Hey everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video. I hope you're all having a wonderful Saturday thus far. And so of course in this video we'll be looking at what is going on across the North Atlantic. So we'll be taking a look at conditions that are expected mainly for the Caribbean as we head into the next 24 hours, and of course the rainfall probability for some areas. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the notification bell so that you never miss an important update. Let's return to this satellite imagery here, and we can see that there is some activity noted along some areas. So out in the tropical Atlantic, there we can see that stretch of some convective activity. Out there we see a few low pressure systems that would have been associated with some fronts, but they're just out there now and eventually they will slowly dissipate. Going to the US, we see some activity offshore, and there's a front that is in association with all of that convective activity taking place in the Gulf of Mexico. Looking at the Caribbean region, though, we're not seeing too much happening, but down in South America and over in the Eastern Pacific, we're definitely seeing some activity taking place. So let's take a closer look at these areas. Firstly, the Gulf of Mexico. So here we have all of this activity, all of those lightning strikes, that thunderstorm activity, the rainfall offshore of the Gulf Coast states of the US as well as Mexico. Now, these storms were inland and produced quite a bit of activity, and now they're mainly offshore. Now, this blob right here is going to continue drifting to the east, and that could result in a pretty stormy afternoon for Florida. So if you're in Florida, beware of that on the horizon for you guys as the day goes on. And so looking at the Caribbean region, though, we can see here that there isn't too much. As I said, we have some cloudiness across sections of the northwestern Caribbean, and look where they're coming from. They're coming out of the Eastern Pacific. So we're seeing all this increased activity off the Pacific coast of the Central American territories. And by the way, the Eastern Pacific hurricane season begins in only around 16 days. So it begins on the 15th of May. And of course, there were times of preseason development in the Eastern Pacific Basin as well. But as we're having more and more of these thunderstorms developing, eventually we will be seeing cyclonic activity over in that ocean basin. And so the moisture, all of that activity coming from the Pacific last night, it induced a lot of showers and thunderstorms along portions of the Central American territories, Mexico, Guatemala, even for Belize as well. There was a lot of activity. And so as we progress into the rest of today, it is definitely probable that we could see some more of that thunderstorm activity developing along those sections of Central America and even surrounding areas as well. So please be aware of that potential, guys. And in terms of the Eastern Caribbean, now we can see that things are pretty much clear. Maybe just some cloudiness over some sections of the Southeastern Caribbean, the ABC Islands, even where we have the Grenadines, Grenada, possibly for Barbados as well, but nothing major is expected. And now in terms of the rainfall, first up we have the GFS, and of course the more colorful this map becomes, the higher the rainfall total. And of course there we have the different colors and those values beside them to show how much rainfall the colors represent in inches. So we can see that there isn't much expected across the Caribbean region. Maybe just some afternoon showers across sections of the Northern Caribbean, but going especially to the Southeastern Caribbean, we're seeing that things are expected to remain dry for the most part. But over into Northern South America and also going up to some sections of Central America for Panama, Costa Rica, and also as we go up into parts of Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and Mexico, we can see that quite a bit of rainfall activity is expected for some areas. And looking at the Euro model, we're seeing somewhat of a similar story here in terms of that rainfall activity. Not much for the Caribbean islands, but as we go on to the mainland territories, we're definitely seeing those higher totals. So that is what is anticipated, guys. And things are pretty much dry conditions are prevalent across the Caribbean region, and that's the reason we're not seeing much convective activity, because the more stability we have, the less likely the chance of seeing a lot of rainfall taking place. And so guys, tomorrow April 30th is the final day of of the month, and so it is Sunday, which means I'll be posting a countdown video for the hurricane season. And so we'll be looking at whether we could possibly see something develop as we head into May. We'll be looking at all the factors or the variables that would determine that potential. And so stay tuned for that video, but that is pretty much it for right now. And so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and you can also share your thoughts there. And of course, remember to always be weatherwise.